didn't kill Roy Stewart, you did. No, Sarah, Genevieve said softly. It was you, remember? I would never do something like that. Her eyes darkened with pity and concern. This isn't funny, I said, my voice low and stiff, but I knew this wasn't some mean-spirited joke on her part. Her tone communicated nothing but compassion. It said that her heart was breaking for her friend and partner. I'm sorry, she said, but someday everyone's going to know what you did. A siren went off beyond the horizon, piercing and almost electronic in its pitch, relentless in its one-note anxiety. What's that noise? Genevieve said. I opened one eye to see the glowing digits of my clock radio, the source of the electronic wail, then raised my hand and squelched the alarm. It was late afternoon in Minneapolis. I'd been sleeping before my shift. Through the windows of my bedroom, the elms of northeast Minneapolis cast greenish shadows on the warped wooden floor. They were in the early leaf of spring. It was early May, that much was true. Also true, Genevieve was in Europe, and my husband Shiloh, a cop once recruited by the FBI, was in prison. All this is because of what happened last year in Blue Earth. You might have read about it if you follow the news, but you didn't read all of it. At the root of everything that happened in Blue Earth was a man named Roy Stewart, who'd raped and murdered Genevieve's daughter, Camarilla, and gotten off on a technicality. Months later, Shiloh had gone to Blue Earth intending to run down Stewart in a stolen truck, but Shiloh had found himself incapable of murder. It was Genevieve who, in a chance encounter, had stabbed Stewart in the neck and burned down the tiny shack he'd lived in. It was Shiloh who'd gone to prison, though, for stealing the truck, while Genevieve, her crime unwitnessed by anyone but me, had gone to Europe to start a new life. I didn't blame her for that. My husband was already behind bars. I didn't want my old friend there, too. It wasn't until Genevieve was virtually on the plane for France that I'd been tipped off that I was a suspect in Stewart's death. Disturbing as it was, it made sense. I was the one who'd been in Blue Earth looking for my husband. It was me who had been seen having unfriendly words with Stewart in a bar just before his death. 2 Faribault County detectives came to the cities to interview me, recording my carefully rehearsed, evasive answers. They didn't appear convinced by anything I'd said. I didn't tell Genevieve what was happening because I feared she'd fly home to bail me out by confessing. Nor did I seek Shiloh's counsel because at the prison his mail was almost certainly being monitored, and it was impossible to explain the situation without referring to Genevieve's guilt. But a strange thing happened, or rather, didn't happen. 1 month passed, then 2. But I was never arrested, nor even questioned again. The investigation seemed to have stalled. Then the Star-Tribune ran its investigative piece. The suspect's death, the headline had read, with an extended subheadline below. Roy Stewart was suspected of killing a Hennepin County detective's daughter. 7 months later, he died in a suspicious late-night fire. A former MPD cop has confessed to planning his murder, but not to carrying it out. While the case is still technically open, the answers may have gone up in flames. It was the Star-Tribune piece that had mentioned what all the other stories hadn't. In an unexplained sidelight, several documents note that Shiloh's wife, Hennepin County Detective Sarah Prebeck, was in Blue Earth the night Stewart died. Faribault County officials have refused to answer questions about whether Prebeck is suspected of involvement in the death and the house fire. Just 2 sentences, but they acknowledged at last the rumor that had been circulating in Minneapolis's law enforcement community for months. The Monday morning after the article ran, there was a very awkward silence when I arrived at work. What bothered me most was this, though. After the Strib story ran, I saw something in the eyes of the young male rookies when they looked at me. I saw respect. They believed I'd killed Roy Stewart, and they thought better of me for it. It would have been an easier burden to bear if it had been shared by my ex-partner and my husband. I didn't blame them for not being here. Genevieve had been wise to get away, safely out from under the growing cloud of suspicion and speculation. And Shiloh, of course, had been imprisoned. He was not gone by choice. But I felt their absence every day. They were more than my immediate family. They were my history here in Minneapolis. Shiloh and Genevieve had known each other before I'd met either of them. That was why, even when the 3 of us weren't together on a daily or even a weekly basis,